The sun was barely above the horizon, casting a pale orange glow over the frozen landscape. Elias Kane adjusted the brim of his hat and squinted at the jagged cliffs ahead. The wind bit at his cheeks, but he barely noticed. On this planet, called Rivara 7, nothing was easy. Surveys said it was uninhabitable. But Elias had always believed that humans could survive anywhere if they were smart and stubborn enough. He rode slowly along the icy bank of a river that shimmered strangely under the rising sun. The map on his handheld device had no record of this river. According to official surveys, there shouldn't have been any liquid water here at all. And yet, there it was, cutting a silver ribbon through frozen plains. Elias slowed his horse and listened. There was a soft cry, almost lost in the wind. It sounded human, and that was impossible. Rivara 7 was supposed to be empty. He scanned the bank, his eyes catching movement in the morning mist. A figure struggled in the river, thrashing against the current that looked too cold for anyone to survive. Without hesitation, Elias kicked his horse into a gallop. He didn't know who this person was, or how they had survived this long in the icy water, but he knew he couldn't leave them. The world might be dangerous, but humans never turned their backs on someone in need. When he reached the water, he didn't think twice. Elias jumped from his horse, feeling the icy spray soak through his clothes. He waded into the river, careful not to slip on the slick stones beneath. The water pulled at him with surprising strength, as if the river itself wanted to keep its secret. The woman was half submerged, her breathing shallow and panicked. She looked at him with wide eyes, her skin pale against the dark, swirling water. Elias extended his hand. "Grab me!" he shouted over the roar of the current. Her fingers trembled as they closed around his. With a strong pull, he dragged her toward the bank, slipping once but steadying himself with a strong kick against the riverbed. Finally, he managed to get her out of the water. She collapsed on the shore, shivering violently, her suit torn and frozen from the river's cold. Elias knelt beside her, checking her for injuries. Her eyes met his, wide and full of something that was more fear than relief. "Are you human?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I am," Elias said, brushing the wet hair from her face. "And so are you. Don't worry. You're safe now." The woman shivered, pulling herself close to him instinctively. I thought no one would come," she admitted. Her voice was soft, almost broken. "Everyone leaves here. They always leave." Elias's jaw tightened. He had known humans were stubborn, but some places tested even the most determined. "Not me," he said firmly. "Humans don't leave if someone needs them. That's the difference." She gave him a small, bitter smile, trying to cover her fear with humor. "If I take my clothes off, will you stay?" she asked. The question made Elias blink. He stared at her for a moment, confused. Then he realized what she meant. It wasn't about clothes or something else. It was a test, a desperate plea for trust. She had no one left, no support, and no reason to believe anyone would remain. The question was a human one. "If I show you everything, will you still be here?" Elias offered her a calm smile. She let out a shaky breath, relief washing over her face. You don't understand what this place is," she said, trying to sit up. "It's not like anywhere else. People die here. Equipment fails. And there's something in the river. Something alive." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Alive?" She nodded, staring at the water as if it held secrets. "It moves. Not like fish. Not like any animal I've seen. But it's not just water. It watches." Elias didn't flinch. Humans had faced strange worlds before, and he had no reason to fear something unknown yet. He helped her stand, steadying her against his shoulder. "Then, we'll watch it together. Humans survive because we don't run from things we don't understand." Her eyes softened, a mix of hope and fear. "I'm Mara," she said. "Mara Voss." Elias Kane, he replied. And you're not alone anymore, Mara. The wind howled around them, carrying frost that bit at their skin. But Elias felt a warmth inside him, the kind that came from helping another human, from choosing to remain when others would flee. They were both wet, freezing, and on a planet that should have been empty. And yet, for the first time in months, Mara allowed herself to hope. They made their way to the nearest cliffside, where a small cave offered some shelter. Elias gathered dry rocks and branches, lighting a small fire despite the dampness. The flames crackled, giving them both warmth and light. Mara watched him quietly, still shivering. "You don't understand," she said after a while. "I've been here for years, alone, trying to keep things working. The planet doesn't forgive mistakes." Elias listened. "I've seen humans survive worse. Broken ships, dead worlds. We adapt, we fix, and sometimes we just refuse to leave. That's how we survive." Her gaze flicked toward the river again. "It's not just survival here. There's something alive in the water. Something alien. And I've kept it in check. But it's getting stronger." Elias nodded. "Then we'll deal with it. Together." For the first time, Mara allowed herself to believe him. She didn't yet know how they would survive, or what dangers lay ahead. But she had a companion. Someone human. Someone who would not leave. As night fell, the river shimmered under the pale light of Rivara 7's twin moons. The water seemed almost alive, reflecting the stars in strange patterns. Elias and Mara sat close to the fire, planning the next steps. Elias spoke gently. "Tomorrow, we explore. We see what's causing the river to behave this way. Humans don't give up on challenges like this. And Mara, you don't have to face it alone anymore." Mara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "You really will stay?" Elias smiled. "I said I would, and I don't break promises." The wind whistled through the canyon, carrying secrets of an ancient world long forgotten. And somewhere in the river, something stirred. But for the first time, Mara didn't feel afraid. She had a human beside her. And humans, she realized, had a way of making impossible things possible. The night deepened, and the river sparkled like a silver ribbon under the moons. Humans could survive anything, even a river that shouldn't exist. The next morning, the sky over Rivara 7 was a pale gray, but Elias felt a strange energy in the air. The river, which had terrified Mara the night before, now glimmered quietly, almost as if it were waiting for them to act. Mara stirred beside the fire, pulling her wetsuit closer around herself. "I should warn you," she said, her voice soft but firm. "This place is not like Earth. You can survive here, yes, but it will test everything you have. Your body, your mind, even your choices." Elias nodded, sipping from a metal canteen. The cold had not eased his alertness. If anything, it sharpened it. Humans survived harsh conditions not by luck, but by seeing problems clearly and acting. He glanced at Mara. "Then show me the first test." "I'm not leaving." Her eyes flicked to the river. "First, you need to understand why I'm here. I am the last caretaker of the old structures on this planet. They were built by a species that vanished thousands of years ago. Their machines still work, but barely. If I leave, everything fails." Elias tilted his head. "Machines? Ancient aliens? That's a lot. But humans fix things." Mara let out a short laugh, bitter but not unkind. "You don't understand. The company that owns this planet abandoned it decades ago. They consider it useless. Everything here belongs to them, but I've kept it running, alone. And sometimes, alone isn't enough." Elias studied her. Humans often faced impossible odds and still survived. But Mara, she was not just surviving. She was protecting something forgotten. Something that others thought didn't matter. That spoke to a human truth he knew well. Humans didn't just survive. They claimed responsibility. even when no one asked them to. Then we start, he said simply. Show me what you're protecting. Mara hesitated for a moment, looking at the river as if it were judging her. There's a facility upriver, she explained, old, mostly buried. It regulates the river's flow. If it fails, the water will rise, or vanish, and the planet's ecosystem will collapse. I've kept it alive, but I cannot do it alone anymore. Elias stood and stretched. Then we go together. Humans solve problems by facing them. They made their way along the riverbank. The journey was difficult: icy rocks, sudden drops, and strange glowing fungi that seemed to pulse underfoot, but Elias moved steadily, helping Mara when the path became treacherous. She admired his calm determination. Where others would panic, Elias seemed to see a way forward. Finally, they reached the entrance to the facility. It was half buried under rocks and ice, ancient symbols etched into its metal walls. Mara pressed a hand to one of the symbols. It's old technology, she said. You can touch it, but if you're careless, it could shut down everything. Elias studied the metal, feeling a strange hum under his fingertips. Humans often succeeded where machines failed, not because they understood everything perfectly, but because they persisted, learning as they went. He smiled faintly. Then we persist. Inside, the facility was dark but intact. Lights flickered as if awakening from a long sleep. Panels blinked weakly, and screens displayed unreadable alien text. Mara moved confidently, pressing buttons and pulling levers with practiced ease. Elias followed, observing, ready to assist. This place isn't just machinery, Mara said quietly. It has a mind of its own. Sometimes it listens. Sometimes it resists. It reacts to intent, not code. That's why humans are different. We can work with it, even if we don't fully understand it. Elias frowned. You mean, it can tell what we want? She nodded. Exactly. That's why the river moved strangely yesterday. I kept it calm, but it's been restless. It knows I'm failing. I cannot stay awake and monitor everything forever. Elias glanced at her. Humans often faced challenges where logic alone was useless. They adapted, trusted instincts, and worked together. He realized she was asking him to do something bigger than fixing machines. She was asking him to be human in a world that was not. He stepped forward. Then, we work together. You guide me. I do my part. That's what humans do. Quote. 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 Mara studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled faintly, relief mixed with caution. I suppose. That's a deal. Hours passed as they repaired ancient systems, replaced worn-out components, and coaxed failing machines to life. Elias learned quickly. Where Mara struggled to reach panels deep inside the facility, Elias improvised tools. Where her knowledge of alien language failed, his human intuition helped him make guesses. Machines that had been dormant for centuries began humming steadily, as if recognizing human presence. By late afternoon, the river had calmed. Its strange shimmer had faded into a clear silver flow. Mara looked at it, astonished. It listens. It really listens. I haven't seen this in years. Elias shrugged, smiling. Humans have that effect. We persist. We adapt. And apparently, we inspire rivers. Mara laughed softly, a sound that warmed the cold facility. I think you may be the first human who truly understands what it means to stay. Most people, they would have left after the first failure. He shook his head. Not humans. We face things. We stay. That's why we survive. That's why we belong in places others think impossible. She studied him, her eyes thoughtful. And yet, even with your help, this planet is not safe. The company still owns it. They will send people to take it back if they learn we've repaired anything. You could be killed. And still? You stay? Elias met her gaze steadily. I don't stay because it's easy or safe. I stay because humans have a way of fixing more than machines. We fix trust. We fix hope, and I won't leave you to face this alone. The night fell while they worked, stars glittering over Rivara 7's alien horizon. Mara had never felt such determination in another human. Most had left her alone, fearing the cold, the danger, or the unknown. Elias stayed. Simply stayed. That choice, that persistence, gave Mara hope that humans were different here, just as she had always believed they could be anywhere. Finally, the facility hummed steadily. Lights glowed brighter, and a subtle warmth spread through the room. The river outside reflected the twin moons with a calm surface, almost serene. Mara exhaled deeply, leaning against a wall. I think we did it, she said. The systems are stable. For now. Elias grinned, wiping sweat from his brow. Humans don't stop at, for now. We keep going until it's done. That's why we survive. Mara turned to him, her eyes shining in the soft alien light. You really mean it? You're not just saying it to make me feel better? I mean it, he said simply. Humans don't leave. We stay. And now, you're not alone anymore. For the first time in years, Mara allowed herself to smile without fear. She had a companion, a human who understood her world, who refused to abandon it, or her. The strange river that had once threatened her now flowed calmly, reflecting not only the moons but also the determined spirit of humanity. Elias looked out a small viewport at the river. Somewhere beneath the surface, the alien water stirred, but it seemed content, not conquered, not frightened, but alive and responsive. Mara's systems, combined with his persistence, had worked. Tomorrow, Elias said, we'll explore more. There's more to understand here. And humans. He smiled at her. We don't quit. We adapt. We survive. And we protect what matters. Mara nodded, finally feeling the weight of her loneliness lift just a little. The planet was still dangerous. The river still mysterious. But for the first time, she felt that perhaps she could survive not just because of her skills, but because humans never give up on each other. Outside, the wind whispered through the cliffs, and the twin moons shone down on a world that was not yet tamed. But for Mara and Elias, survival wasn't just about the planet, it was about trust, partnership, and the stubborn human heart that refuses to leave when others flee. And in that quiet night, with the river calm and the facility alive once more, Mara realized that the question she had asked Elias the day before, the strange, desperate question, no longer mattered. He had already answered, without words. Humans stay. The morning sun rose over Rivara 7, casting long shadows across the silver river. Elias Kane had been awake before dawn, inspecting the facility and the river, making sure every system Mara had repaired the day before was still functioning. The water flowed steadily now, no longer threatening or strange, but the planet itself seemed restless, as if aware of their presence. Mara appeared at the entrance to the facility, her eyes heavy with worry and fatigue. You've done more in one day than I've managed in a week, she said quietly, but we're not safe. The company, they will notice the changes. And when they do, they'll send people. Elias nodded. Humans often face threats bigger than themselves. From storms, diseases, and rivals. They adapted and found solutions. But sometimes threats came from those who thought humans were weak. Then we prepare, he said simply. Humans don't wait for problems to hit. We act first. Mara studied him for a long moment. I've been alone here for years. Alone. Watching. Fixing. And sometimes praying the river doesn't turn against me. You're not like other humans. You don't just survive. You face things. You stay. Elias tilted his hat back, smiling faintly. Humans have a habit of staying where others leave. You'll see, Mara. That's why we thrive. They spent the morning checking the river systems, examining the facility's ancient machinery, and preparing for anything that might come. Mara explained how the river was connected to hidden alien networks, underground channels that controlled water flow across the planet. It was delicate work. One wrong move could trigger floods or dry the river entirely. Elias listened carefully. Humans didn't always understand alien technology fully, but they had a remarkable skill: problem-solving under pressure. And humans didn't just work alone, they collaborated, shared knowledge, and invented solutions on the fly. Mara had the knowledge. Elias had ingenuity. Together, they formed a human team capable of tackling challenges that no machine or alien could fully control. By afternoon, the first sign of trouble arrived. The sky darkened unnaturally, a shadow moving across the horizon. Mara tensed. "They're here," she said. Elias turned to see small aircraft descending from orbit. Sleek, black, corporate drones, designed for precision and intimidation. The company had noticed their activity. Humans often faced enemies armed with technology. But Elias didn't flinch. "Then they'll meet humans who don't leave," he said firmly. Mara's eyes widened. "You're not thinking. They could destroy the facility, the river, everything." Elias shook his head. "Humans survive because we act, not because we hide. We protect what matters." The drones hovered above, scanning for life signs. Mara activated the facility's shields, old alien technology she had maintained, but even the shields were weak. The company's drones could breach them if they tried hard enough. Elias considered their options. Humans were resourceful. They didn't panic, they improvised. "Follow me," he said, moving toward a maintenance tunnel Mara had used to reach hidden channels in the river. "We can't stop them from seeing us, but we can use the environment to our advantage." The tunnel was narrow and damp, glowing with bioluminescent fungi that Mara had discovered years before. The river ran beneath them, calm and steady. Elias looked at her. "The river is our ally. Humans use what's around them. The company doesn't understand this world. They never will." Mara nodded. "I've trained for this. But never with anyone else. You may be stronger than I imagined." They emerged into a hidden control room, deep under the cliffs, where Mara had rigged old systems to monitor the river. Here, they could guide the water flow, manipulate channels, and protect the facility from above. Elias quickly studied the panels. Alien symbols and strange lights blinked, but humans had a talent for patterns. He began pressing buttons, testing reactions, adjusting valves and channels. The first drone swept down, scanning for heat signatures. It froze as the river channels subtly shifted, redirecting water currents to create a misty curtain that confused the sensors. Elias grinned. Humans had an advantage that technology couldn't always predict: creativity. Mara watched him work, astonished. You're thinking like me, but differently. You see possibilities I can't. I've never had a human like this before." "Then you're lucky," Elias said simply. "Humans survive because we face danger together." The drones descended further, more aggressive this time. Mara adjusted the controls, guiding water through underground channels to rise and swirl in ways that created barriers above ground. The first drone veered off course, its sensors confused by the river's movements. Humans had a skill the company had never accounted for: adapting in real time. Elias jumped down into a lower chamber, rerouting energy to ancient turbines. Sparks flew, and the machinery roared to life. The vibrations caused minor tremors above ground, nudging the drone's sensors even more off balance. Humans were unpredictable. They improvised. They survived. Mara's voice trembled with excitement. "It's working. The river. It's reacting." "Yes," Elias said. "Humans don't just survive nature. We interact with it, shape it, and protect it. The company will learn that the hard way." The drones attempted to land, but the flowing water and tremors forced them to hover. Mara and Elias exchanged a glance. "We can't keep this forever," Mara said. "But we can buy time." Elias shook his head. "Time is what humans turn into survival. And this planet, it's ours to defend, not abandon." As night fell, the drones finally retreated, confused and unable to adapt to the combined ingenuity of Mara, Elias, and the river itself. The planet was alive, the river a willing ally, and humans unexpected, stubborn humans were at the center of it all. Mara collapsed against the wall, exhausted but exhilarated. I didn't think anyone could do this with me. I've been alone for so long. And now you're not alone, Elias interrupted gently. Humans survive because we stay, because we work together, because we don't quit when others would. We fix what's broken, and we protect what matters. Mara's eyes shone with tears she didn't bother to hide. You really understand humans, she whispered. Most would have run. You stayed. Elias looked out at the river, now calm under the twin moons. Somewhere beneath the surface, the water stirred gently, as if acknowledging their victory. Humans had faced impossible odds, and had not only survived, they had adapted, protected, and won, without destroying the world they were on. We'll need to stay alert, Mara said, finally finding her voice. The company may return with more people, better drones, stronger weapons. But now we know the river listens. And humans don't just survive. We endure. Elias nodded. Exactly, and we'll endure together. We'll face whatever comes, because humans stay when others flee. The wind whispered through the cliffs, carrying the cold scent of Rivara 7's icy plains. Yet inside the facility, warmth spread, not just from the machinery, but from the human spirit. Humans did not merely exist, they claimed impossible worlds, adapted to alien challenges, and protected what mattered. Mara studied Elias. You really think humans belong here? He smiled faintly. Humans belong everywhere. Not because the world is easy, but because we make it ours. We adapt. We survive. And we stay. The river flowed quietly beneath them. A silver ribbon of alien water. Alive. And patient. Mara realized that survival was no longer about being cautious or hiding. It was about human ingenuity, determination, and trust. With Elias, she could face anything. Outside, the night deepened, the twin moons reflecting off the river's surface. Somewhere in the distance, the company's drones disappeared beyond the horizon. But Mara and Elias knew they were not safe forever. Still, they had learned something crucial. Humans don't flee. We stay. We protect. We endure. And in that quiet moment, Mara understood the truth of her own question, the one she had asked the first night. It had never been about fear, or loneliness, or even survival. It had been about trust. Elias had proven, without words, that humans stay when it matters most. And for the first time in years, Mara allowed herself to believe that Rivara 7 was not a prison, but a world humans could claim, shape, and protect, together. The sky above Rivara 7 burned with a pale red light as the first signs of an approaching fleet appeared on the horizon. The company had returned, and this time, they brought more than drones. They brought men, machines, and weapons designed to reclaim the planet. Mara Voss stood beside Elias Kane, watching the approaching threat through a reinforced viewport in the facility. The river, calm and silver in the morning light, reflected the twin moons faintly even before sunrise. But beneath that calm surface, Mara felt a tension she had not felt in years. The company had underestimated the planet's power once. Would they do so again? They're coming, Mara whispered. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of responsibility she had carried alone for years. If they break through, everything I've protected, everything I've kept alive, could be destroyed. Elias nodded. Humans often faced overwhelming odds. But survival wasn't about fear, it was about action. Then we don't let them break through, he said firmly. Humans survive because we stay. We don't run. And we protect what matters. Mara studied him. In all her years on Rivara 7, no human had stayed. Most fled when the risk became real. But Elias, he was different. He stayed because he believed in survival, in adaptation, and in partnership. Mara realized that humans were dangerous in ways the company had not accounted for, not because of weapons, but because of determination and ingenuity. The company's landing ships touched the outer cliffs, dust and ice swirling in their wake. Mara activated the facility's hidden systems, channels and turbines humming to life as Elias adjusted the river's flow. Water surged through underground channels, rising in precise patterns that created barriers and fog above the landing zone. "They don't understand the river," Elias said. "Humans adapt to what's around them. Nature becomes our partner, not our enemy." Mara nodded. "If we can manipulate the river, we can slow them. But it won't last long." Elias moved to the control panels, pressing buttons and adjusting levers with steady hands. Even though the alien systems were ancient, his human intuition guided him. Where Mara relied on knowledge, he relied on creativity. Together, they worked as a team, combining decades of experience and instinct into an improvisation the company could not anticipate. The first wave of drones descended, attempting to map the facility and detect life forms. The river responded, currents twisting and rising, sending plumes of mist that confused sensors. The drones veered off course, their systems struggling to interpret the changing environment. Mara's eyes widened in surprise. "It's working! The river, it's reacting to us." "Yes," Elias said. "Humans don't just survive, we interact. We shape what's around us. That's why we belong here." The company's men landed near the cliffs, thinking the facility would be defenseless. They did not expect the flowing rivers to rise like a wall of silver mist, disorienting their vision and sending loose rocks tumbling in unpredictable patterns. Humans saw opportunities in obstacles. They used them. They endured. Elias and Mara guided the water channels, adjusting flow and speed to create safe paths for themselves and dangerous traps for intruders. Every movement was precise. Every decision mattered. Humans had a talent the company could not understand. Adaptation through problem-solving, under pressure, in real time. Mara marveled at Elias's calm determination. How are you so sure?" she asked, adjusting a valve to redirect the river's current. "Because humans survive," he said simply. "Not because we're stronger or faster, not because we have weapons or machines, but because we stay when others flee, and we protect what matters." Hours passed, and the battle of wits continued. The company tried to force their way forward, but each attempt was met with ingenious human strategies. Turbines caused tremors above the landing area. Water currents shifted unpredictably, and the misty river obscured every line of sight. Humans did not panic. Humans improvised. Humans endured. By midday, the company realized their weapons and machines were ineffective against a combination of human ingenuity and an alien ecosystem. Mara and Elias had created a defense system that relied not on brute force, but on the planet itself. And humans who stayed, humans who adapted, were at the heart of it. The company's leader, a stern figure in a black suit, radioed from the cliffs. "You cannot hold this place. Surrender, and no harm will come." Elias stepped forward, voice calm and unwavering. "We're not surrendering. Humans don't leave when it matters. And this planet, this river, belongs to no one who cannot adapt and protect it." Mara watched, awe and relief mixing in her chest. Elias had become more than a partner. He was the embodiment of humanity's strength. She had spent years protecting this planet alone, believing that survival depended solely on knowledge and effort. Now she understood. Survival depended on humans staying together, trusting each other, and never giving up. The company made one last attempt to advance, but the river surged, sending torrents of water into their path. Mist and turbulence confused sensors, and the landing site became chaotic. Men slipped on icy rocks, machines stalled in shallow channels, and the flow of the river blocked every advance. Elias moved with precision, guiding Mara as she adjusted the ancient systems. Humans had a way of seeing solutions in chaos, of turning danger into opportunity, and now, the planet itself seemed to respond to them. amplifying their efforts. Finally, the company's forces retreated, unable to overcome the combination of human ingenuity and the living river. Mara exhaled deeply, her shoulders slumping in relief. Elias stood beside her, calm, steady, and unshaken. "They'll come back," Mara said quietly. "Stronger, smarter." Elias nodded. "Then we'll be ready. Humans survive not because we never face threats, but because we never stop adapting. And we stay. Always." Mara looked at him, her eyes full of something she hadn't felt in years. "Hope. You really mean it, don't you? You'll stay. No matter what?" "Nah. I've never left anyone behind," Elias replied. "Humans don't abandon those who matter. We endure. We protect. We survive. And I stay." For the first time in years, Mara allowed herself to feel safe. The facility was still fragile. The river still strange and alive. And the company still a threat. But they had discovered a truth more powerful than fear. Humans, when determined, could adapt, protect, and thrive anywhere, even on a planet that seemed impossible. The night fell, and the river glimmered under the twin moons. Its currents were calm, reflecting the stars above. But somewhere beneath the surface, something stirred, watchful, alive, and acknowledging the humans who had faced its challenge. Mara realized that survival was no longer about solitude, caution, or fear. It was about human ingenuity, persistence, and trust in one another. Elias looked at her. "Tomorrow, we explore more. We'll strengthen the systems, understand the river better, and be ready. Humans survive because we adapt. And humans endure because we stay when it matters most." Mara smiled faintly, the weight of loneliness lifting just slightly. "Humans really are something," she whispered. "I've been alone for so long. And now, I see what it means to survive together." Elias grinned. "It's what we do. Humans stay. We endure. And we protect what matters, even when the odds are impossible." Outside, the wind whispered through the cliffs, carrying the cold scent of Rivara 7's icy plains. The river flowed calmly, a silver ribbon of alien water alive with energy. Humans had faced the impossible, adapted, and prevailed, not through brute force, but through determination, creativity, and partnership. Mara realized her question from the first night. The desperate, strange question had already been answered without words. Elias had proven the truth. Humans stay when it matters most. And as the night deepened, with the river shimmering under twin moons and the facility alive once more, Mara finally believed that Rivara 7 could be a home. Not a prison. Not a test of endurance alone, but a place where humans, together, could survive, adapt, and thrive. The dawn on Rivara 7 was crisp and clear, the twin moons fading slowly from the sky. Elias Kane and Mara Voss stood at the edge of the river, watching the water flow silently. The planet was quiet now, peaceful, almost as if it was holding its breath after the chaos of the last days. Yet beneath the calm, something had changed, something that even Mara could feel. The river seemed alive, aware, and attentive. Mara turned to Elias, her eyes reflecting both fatigue and wonder. "We did it. The systems, the river, everything is stable. For now." Elias adjusted his hat, looking out over the flowing water. "Humans survive because we don't wait for now. We act, we adapt, and we protect what matters. That's why we're still here." Mara smiled faintly. For years, she had been alone, keeping the planet alive by sheer determination. No one stayed with her. No one understood the river, the machines, or the fragile balance she maintained. But Elias had stayed, not out of obligation, not because it was safe, but because humans choose to remain where others flee. They walked along the riverbank, carefully avoiding slippery rocks and patches of frost. The river's surface shimmered with a strange light, reflecting the twin moons faintly still, clinging to the morning sky. Mara's mind wandered to the first night, when she had asked him the question that had haunted her. "If I take my clothes off, will you stay?" Now, she understood. It had never been about clothing or fear. It had been about trust. About whether someone would remain when the world offered no reason to. Elias had proven the answer with every step he took beside her. "I can't believe I didn't think it possible," Mara said quietly. Humans really can survive anywhere. And they don't just survive. They thrive," Elias smiled. "Humans adapt. Humans endure. And humans stay when it matters. That's what makes us strong." The sun rose higher, casting golden light over the frozen cliffs. In the distance, faint shapes of the company's retreating drones and ships could be seen. They had returned once, testing the humans' resolve, but they had underestimated not just Mara's skill, but the ingenuity, creativity, and determination of humans working together. Mara's eyes followed the river, glimmering like liquid silver. "It's strange. The river reacts to us. It listens. It remembers. And I think it trusts us now." Elias nodded. "Humans don't just survive challenges alone. We make allies, sometimes of other species, sometimes of the world itself. We belong where we choose to belong." The two of them reached a shallow pool where the river spread wide, sunlight reflecting in dancing patterns on the water. Mara knelt beside it, dipping her hand in. The water felt alive, gentle, yet powerful. "I never thought anyone could do this with me," she said softly. "I've been alone for so long. And now, I don't have to be." Elias knelt beside her, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. "You never had to be alone again," he said. "Humans don't leave behind those who matter. We face challenges together, we endure together, and we survive together." Mara's eyes glistened. "You really believe that? About humans?" Elias looked out at the flowing river, then back at her. "I do. Humans don't just survive because we are strong. We survive because we persist, because we adapt, and because we care enough to stay. We make impossible things possible." The twin moons faded completely now, and the sun fully claimed the sky. Birds, strange and alien, flew across the cliffs, circling the river, as if acknowledging the humans who had protected it. The world was alive, vibrant, and safe for now. Mara stood and looked at Elias. "You stayed when no one else would. You helped me survive. Not just physically, but everything else. And I think I finally understand what my question meant." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" She laughed softly, the sound carrying across the river. "It wasn't about me showing something, or testing you. It was about whether someone would stay, whether someone would choose to remain when it wasn't safe, when it wasn't convenient, when the world itself seemed impossible. And you stayed." Elias smiled faintly. "Humans have a way of doing that. We endure, we survive, and we stay." The day passed with careful observation of the river and the facility. Mara guided Elias through the hidden channels beneath the cliffs, explaining how water flow, energy turbines, and ancient alien mechanisms were connected. Every piece had to work together perfectly. A single misstep could destabilize the river, the facility, or even the planet's fragile ecosystem. Elias listened, learned, and then improvised. Where the alien systems required precision beyond comprehension, he relied on creativity, patience, and human intuition. They worked together, each complementing the other. Mara's knowledge, paired with Elias's ingenuity, created a combination no single human or alien could match. By evening, the river glimmered with renewed energy, the facility hummed with life, and Mara finally allowed herself to relax. For the first time in years, she felt safe, not just because the danger was gone, but because humans had a way of protecting, enduring, and persisting against impossible odds. Elias looked at her as the twin moons slowly rose again, casting pale light over the river. "Tomorrow, we explore further," he said. "We'll strengthen the systems, map the channels, and make sure this planet remains stable. Humans survive, not by giving up, but by acting. And we endure, because we stay when it matters most." Mara nodded, a smile of relief and understanding on her face. "Humans really are something extraordinary. I've been alone for so long. And now, I see what it means to survive together." They walked along the riverbank, side by side, watching the currents swirl and shimmer. Somewhere beneath the surface, the river moved as if aware of their presence, flowing with life and recognition. Mara realized the truth of her first night's question. It had never been about fear, desire, or even survival alone. It had been about trust. And Elias had proven that humans stay when it matters most. As the night deepened, the river sparkled under the twin moons. The facility hummed steadily, and Rivara 7 seemed to breathe alongside its human guardians. Mara understood that the planet was no longer just a challenge, it was a home. A place where humans could adapt, endure, and thrive. Elias looked at her, smiling faintly. "Humans stay. We protect. We survive. And we endure." Mara's eyes glistened in the pale moonlight. "Then we will stay," she whispered. "Together." And for the first time in years, Mara allowed herself to feel hope and trust, not just in survival, but in humanity itself. The river flowed calmly, reflecting the moons and stars, alive with energy, and humans had proven themselves worthy of its trust. Together, they had faced the impossible, adapted, and endured. And together, they would continue to do so because humans stay, even when the world seems impossible. The river whispered its quiet approval. The moons glimmered, and the wind carried a soft promise across the cliffs. Humans endure. Humans persist. Humans protect. And humans stay. Always.